Unemployment levels are expected to remain elevated in the second quarter due to difficult economic conditions. Stats South Africa will this week release its labour force survey, which deals with conditions in the labour market. Unemployment rose by 0.8% in the first quarter, leaving the official unemployment rate at 32.9%. The expanded definition of unemployment, including discouraged job seekers, rose to 41.9% in the first quarter from 41.1% in the previous quarter. Now, despite the constant electricity supply, sectors such as the manufacturing and mining have not done well in recent months due to low demand. The high cost of living crisis has also impacted household spending and the hiring of retail space. Growth in the economy is expected to remain around 1%, hardly enough to create meaningful jobs and make a dent in the high unemployment levels. All right, for more on what we can expect tomorrow, we're joined by SABC News economics editor Tshepo Mongoai. Tshepo, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
No, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Help us make sense of all of this. Most experts are saying that the unemployment numbers are possibly going to remain elevated. Is this a general sentiment across the board?
Well, the reality is unemployment has remained in that range of around 30% for quite some time. We have not really moved the needle for quite some time, for many years now. So the reality is there are a lot of structural challenges that we are facing. One is the seasonality could be praised as a reason that we've seen either a slight uptick in employment, but the reality is there is no significant change in terms of job creation in South Africa. We've seen the first quarter unemployment numbers. They did decline a little bit to around 32%, perhaps because the first quarter, that's when you have the increase because more people are coming. And they start looking for work.
Okay, so we've got new entrants into the market.
Absolutely.
So it would certainly just increase the numbers generally, that you've got more job seekers now.
That's another reason for seasonality. And then come the second quarter, you are more likely to have fewer people who start actively looking for work. So that might result in a slight decline in unemployment rate. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are creating jobs in the economy. We have not been. In fact, what we have seen over the years, even just before COVID, was that there was a kind of a threat to the current jobs that we have, where we were more concerned about losing the employment that we have in the country and doing our best to protect it. But then going forward is, are we able to add more jobs to the current? That's where the struggle really is.
If you're saying we're not adding or increasing jobs, what can we attribute to the increase then that we saw in January? Because we saw that specifically in agriculture and mining, there was an increase in the previous quarter.
Absolutely. There are, of course, issue of seasonalities that might be limited to a particular sector. We know that, for example, in the agriculture, there was a bumper season. So there was a need to get more people because, we've had good rains. Of course, at the time, we were also focusing the El Nino phenomenon, but it was generally a good factor.
Which is fair enough. But then in mining, would we say it's seasonal work there as well?
Well, remember, we've got the price of commodities that at times go up and down, and that warrants the demand for more labor because it's not just mining. I mean, mining as a core business, there are other sectors that rely on mining that also operate within that space that might also see some benefits of what's happening when it comes to the commodity prices. So there might be all those kind of seasonalities that may convince us that perhaps we are moving the needle, but in reality, we're not. I mean, the main issue here is who are the people who are battling to enter the labor market. We find that people with less than matric, those are the people, almost 40% that cannot enter the labor market. And these are people who maybe they have done their matric and it's not really worth a certificate, or they've never entered the classroom, the grade 12 classroom.
Now we're seeing those with post-matric qualifications also enter the market and become discouraged.
Absolutely.
They're also not getting jobs.
The bulk of them It's there. These are people who don't have any kind of skills, who don't have any chance of going elsewhere. So I suppose that's where the intervention should be. And the sad reality is you have more people who are joining the ranks. Of course, yes, if you go up, you'll find that the second to that are those with matric. They are also struggling, but it gets, the percentage starts to get smaller and smaller the higher you go. The problem is at that level where people do not have matric, do not have any skills, and the country obviously it needs people. The technology is improving, that you need some kind of a skill, but until there is some kind of intervention at that level, at that where the problem is, then we'll continue to experience a lot of challenges when it comes to creating jobs, because those people must find a way of living and must find a way of sustaining themselves, and they need to be active in the labor force.
It's honestly quite unfortunate, because we've heard ever so often, even with the president stating that we need to skill for the future now, that we need to look at our economy, where we want to take it, and start ensuring that people acquire those kind of skills. So there's been a lot of conversation even about a number of people taking up artisanal jobs or going to get skills in that specific area. So it's quite unfortunate this remains just a conversation. We're not seeing many people that are actually getting the skills that are needed now. But just in closing, we're also expecting the mining production data for June. We know that in May it was flat. What are we expecting?
Well, we know that perhaps we've seen some improvement in some mining prices, commodity prices. The improvement that we've seen at the ports would also help to improve the picture when it comes to mining production. So we could get a little bit more out of the country, and that will play a significant role. The electricity situation has since improved, and that too will definitely help. I think in a number of high-frequency datas that we're expecting in the coming days, we'll definitely see some improvement. Retail sales also, people are able to shop for longer. They could go to stores as and when they want to.
And now we're getting the two-pot system. Hopefully it will lead to more money in the household, so a lot of shopping as well can be done there.
Of course, it will bring that temporary relief for households, although it won't be significant going forward. But for that month, it will reflect in the data.
All right, Tshepo, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. That's SABC News economics editor Tshepo Mongoai.